Imagine a world where success depends not on how much you take, but on how much you give. Sounds like a utopia? Adam Grant, a professor at the Wharton School of Business, and one of the youngest and most renowned psychologists of our time, proves in his book Give and Take, a revolutionary approach to success, that this is a reality. The book was released in 2013 and instantly became a bestseller because it overturns conventional ideas about how to achieve success in work, relationships, and life. Grant divides people into three types: givers, those who help others without expecting a return; takers, those who think only of themselves; and matchers, those who operate on the principle of you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. And here's the paradox. The most successful and the most unsuccessful people are givers. Why is that? The book explains. Adam Grant wrote Give and Take after noticing that his most successful students often helped others selflessly, which inspired him to research the psychology of generosity. The book became a New York Times bestseller and has been translated into 30 languages. And Grant himself lives by its principles. He spends hours offering free advice to students and colleagues. Another fact, the idea for the book originated from his arguments with friends who believe that only selfish people succeed in business. The goal is to understand how generosity can become your competitive advantage and learn to apply it in life. Also, the book was born from the author's research, which began with the question, why do some people burn out helping others while others flourish? The answers are in these 9 chapters. Rule 1, good deeds are rewarded. The first chapter introduces the concept of the 3 types of people: givers, takers, and matchers, and explains why givers can be both at the height of success and at the very bottom. Grant shows that generosity is not a weakness, but a strategy that works if applied wisely. Generosity as a path to success. Grant argues that people who help others without expecting immediate gain eventually receive more opportunities and support because they build a positive reputation. This is a long-term investment in relationships. For example, you regularly share useful materials with colleagues, and a year later, one of them recommends you for a promotion, remembering your help. Strategic help instead of thoughtless help. Givers must choose whom and how to help, so as not to exhaust their resources and not become victims of takers. This means focusing on those who value support. For example, you decide to help only one colleague with a project instead of taking on all requests, and they later return the favor at a crucial moment. The chapter teaches that generosity is not just a virtue, but a tool for success if you help consciously and don't allow yourself to be exploited. It sets the tone for the book, showing that givers win when they act smartly. Rule 2, the secrets of the peacock's tail. This chapter is about how connections and reputation help givers succeed. Grant uses the metaphor of the peacock's tail to show that demonstrating generosity attracts people, just as bright feathers attract attention. The strength of weak ties. Grant explains that not only close friends, but also casual acquaintances can open doors to new opportunities because they connect you with other social circles. This expands your horizon. For example, you write to an old acquaintance from university asking about their work, and they unexpectedly offer you to join an interesting project. Generosity as a signal of trust. When you help publicly and sincerely, people see you as a reliable partner, which strengthens your reputation and attracts allies. This works as invisible advertising. For example, you conduct a free masterclass for colleagues, and soon you are invited to speak at a corporate event as an expert. The chapter reveals how givers can use connections and reputation to stand out. It teaches that even small acts of generosity can become your peacock's tail, attracting the right people. Rule 3, the power of selfless help. Here Grant delves into the psychology of givers, showing how selfless help to others brings inner satisfaction and external success. The chapter focuses on why sincerity is the key to thriving. Help for the sake of meaning. Grant believes that givers find motivation in seeing how their actions improve the lives of others, not in the expectation of a reward. This makes them resilient to disappointment. For example, you help a friend prepare a resume simply because you are happy about their success, and this inspires you to continue. Focus on strengths. Instead of helping everyone, givers should use their unique skills so that their contribution is maximized. This amplifies the effect of their actions. For example, as a good analyst, you help a colleague understand data instead of spending time on tasks where you are not an expert. The chapter emphasizes that selflessness is not a sacrifice, but a source of strength if you help where you can excel. It inspires you to seek meaning in supporting others. Rule 4, how to find diamonds in the rough. Grant talks about how givers know how to see potential in people whom others underestimate. This ability helps them build teams and find talent where no one is looking. Seeing hidden talents. Grant advises paying attention to those who are overlooked and helping them develop, because such people often become the most grateful allies. This requires observation. For example, you notice that a quiet intern writes excellent texts and give them a chance to prove themselves in a project, they become a key player. Invest in the development of others. Instead of waiting for finished stars, givers invest time in training and support, turning raw material into diamonds. This is a long-term strategy. For example, you spend an hour explaining the basics of Excel to a colleague, and a month later, they themselves propose improvements to reports. The chapter teaches that givers win by finding and nurturing talent. This is about being able to see beyond the obvious and create value out of nothing. Rule 5, the art of asking for help. Grant explains why it is difficult for givers to ask for help and how to learn to do it correctly. He shows that requests are not a weakness, but a way to strengthen bonds and achieve more. Ask with gratitude. Grant argues that requests work if you show how the help will benefit you and why it is important, and then sincerely thank them. This creates mutual respect. For example, you tell a colleague, "Can you check my report? Your ideas will make it better, and I really value your help." And they agree. Specificity in requests. Instead of vague phrases like, "help me," you need to clearly articulate what you need and why, so people can respond more easily. This saves time and nerves. For example, instead of "proofread my text," you ask, "Can you look at the first 3 pages by tomorrow morning?" And you get a quick response. The chapter breaks the stereotype that givers should only give. It teaches you to ask in a way that strengthens relationships, rather than putting you in a vulnerable position. Rule 6, the new rules of motivation. Grant explores what motivates givers compared to takers and matchers. He shows how linking work to an impact on others can overturn the concept of motivation and increase productivity. Motivation through impact. Grant explains that givers are inspired not by money or status, but by the realization of how their work improves the lives of others. This makes work meaningful and resistant to burnout. For example, you write code for an application and imagine how it will help students learn. This spurs you to work better, creating a chain of meaning. You need to link your tasks to the end result for people so that even routine gains a purpose. This helps maintain enthusiasm even in difficult moments. For example, you are doing boring proofreading of a text, but you remind yourself that it is part of a book that will inspire readers, and you continue with a new mindset. The chapter re-examines motivation, showing that givers find strength in serving others. It teaches you to see meaning behind everyday tasks, which makes the work meaningful. Rule 7, the weaknesses of the strong. Here, Grant analyzes why takers often fail in the long run. He shows their vulnerabilities and explains how givers can use this to their advantage while remaining true to their principles. The collapse of egoism. Grant argues that takers lose because their selfishness destroys trust and reputation, leaving them isolated. Over time, people stop collaborating with them. For example, your taker colleague takes all the credit for a project, but a year later, no one wants to work with them, and they lose influence. The strength of the giver's reputation. Instead of fighting takers, Givers should focus on building a network of support through generosity, which makes them invulnerable to the selfish. This is passive defense. For example, you share ideas with a team, and when a taker tries to set you up, colleagues side with you because of your generosity. The chapter emphasizes that selfishness is a temporary victory, while generosity is long-term success. It teaches givers not to seek revenge, but to win through trust and support. Rule 8, how to avoid burnout while giving. Grant examines the main problem of givers, the risk of burnout from excessive help to others. He offers ways to protect yourself so that you can continue to give without sacrificing health and energy. Setting boundaries. Grant advises givers to limit the time and resources they spend on others so as not to become exhausted. This is about the balance between generosity and self-preservation. For example, you decide to respond to colleagues' requests only from 10 to 11 to dedicate the rest of the day to your own tasks, measuring the effect of help. You need to evaluate how your help affects people and focus on cases where it brings real benefit. This replenishes energy and prevents disappointment. For example, you help a friend with a resume and see them get a job. This inspires you to continue, but with a lighter workload. The chapter teaches givers to take care of themselves so that their generosity does not become self-destructive. This is a practical guide to sustainable help for others. Rule 9, changing lives, changing the world. The concluding chapter shows how small acts of generosity create a ripple effect that influences society. Grant inspires readers to become givers who launch waves of positive change. The ripple effect. Grant explains that one kind deed can inspire others to do the same, creating a wave of goodness. This turns individual generosity into a collective force. For example, you treat a colleague to coffee, they in turn help another, and soon the whole team begins to share support. Starting small. You don't need to change the world all at once. One act of help is enough to start a process that will grow over time. This is about the accessibility of change for everyone. For example, you donate old books to the library, and this inspires a friend to organize a collection of items for those in need. The chapter concludes the book with a powerful message. One person's generosity can change the world. It inspires you to act, showing that even a small step matters. This is such a wonderful book. I have compiled a separate list of all the important theses from this book, along with all the techniques and tools, and created a step-by-step action plan that you can immediately implement in your life. You can get all this in my community, Place of Power. There, you will find a detailed text analysis with similar lists for each book being reviewed. The community has already thoroughly analyzed and made available to you hundreds of world bestsellers, with a new analysis released every day. Follow the link in the description and use it